join me, please, as we pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you'll join me in a moment of silence, and could we please keep in our hearts and prayers the West Vigo community and students, and especially the family of the child that was lost their life this morning. Thank you. Dr. Goller, could we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Ms. Flower,
Present.
Dr. Powers,
Here.
Ms. Scott,
Here.
Mrs. Wise,
Here.
Mr. Irwin,
Here.
Mrs. Killian,
Here.
Mrs. Lohr.
Here.
President Lauer, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the board, trustees. My name is Michael Cox. I'm here tonight with our VCTA President, Heidi McDonald, to introduce the mandated state required public hearing that as of 2019 is required prior to the commencement of bargaining between the school corporation and the Teachers Association.
Thank you for introducing that, and I would take a motion to open the public hearing.
I make that motion to open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mrs. Wise. I second. Thank you. I appreciate that. Second, and we'll have roll call, please.
Ms. Flower,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian, Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
And you may go on.
President Lauer, the purpose of this public hearing is to allow public comments, if any, on bargaining process, the discussion process, and the current 2021-2022 collective bargaining agreement. At this time, now is the appropriate time for public comment.
Is there any public comment regarding collective bargaining statements? Seeing none,
Let me close the meeting. Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi.
thank you. Take a motion to close the public hearing. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Mrs. Lohr moved to close the public hearing, and Mr. Irwin got in there.
No, I don't think I got it. I never said it. They
It's
all
up
said
for
it
the
first.
party.
One of the two of you.
You can pick one of them.
I think Dr. Powers.
Thank you. Dr. Goller.
Ms. Flower,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian, Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
Thank you. Now we'll take we will open our regular meeting, and I would take a motion to open our meeting.
I will make that motion to open our regularly scheduled board meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Irwin made a motion to open our regularly scheduled board meeting, and Dr. Powers seconded that. Dr. Goller.
Mrs. Flower,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian, Mrs. Lohr.
Thank you. Our vision and mission. Our vision is working together with our community. We inspire our students to discover their talents and rise to their greatest potential. Our mission is building on the strengths of our diverse community to create an engaging, comprehensive educational environment that supports the growth of lifelong learners. With our consent agenda, do I have a motion to accept?
Make the motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll
Second. Thank you. Mr. Irwin made a motion to approve our consent agenda. Dr. Powers seconded that. Dr. Gover.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian, Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
Next is regarding our certificate of appointment to our public library board. Information for our audience, the school corporation has 2 representatives that are mandated to be on our local public library board. Dr. Christy Fenton is one of our representatives, and we are replacing one who left with the application by Mrs. Stacy Killian. So do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve the 2 appointments.
Thank you. Is there a
I'll second.
Thank you. Mrs. Wise made a motion to approve the certificate of the appointment to our public library board, and Mr. Irwin seconded that. Dr. Gover.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott, Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian,
Aye. For Dr. Fenton, do I have to abstain from myself?
For yourself as well, you better.
Okay. Aye.
Yes. We would like to hear an aye.
Aye, please.
Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you for serving on that. Next is our July and August accounts payable docket. The Finance Committee did meet, and questions that we had were responded to and answered. Any other questions about that from the Finance Committee members?
No, we're very thorough.
We are. Okay, I would take a motion to approve.
Move to approve the finance accounts payable docket as presented.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
All right, Mrs. Lohr moved to approve the accounts payable docket, and Mrs. Wise seconded that. Dr. Goff.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian,
Aye.
Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
Into our new business, the personnel report, professional leave request, Mr. Cox.
President Lauer, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of Trustees, administration seeks approval of the personnel report as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mrs. Wise made a motion to approve the personnel report and professional leave request, and Mr. Irwin seconded that. Dr. Gover.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian, Mrs. Lohr.
Aye.
Next is the permission to advertise our calendar year 2022, the proposed budget. Mrs. Wilson.
President Lauer, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of School Trustees. We will conduct a thorough review of the 2022 calendar year budgets at the board work session on September 13th. As a formality this evening, I'm requesting your authorization to advertise that budget after your review that evening. Per budget adoption regulations, the proposed 2022 budget would need to be advertised on Gateway at least 10 days prior to the public hearing, and that public hearing will be scheduled this year on September 27th.
I make a motion to advertise the calendar year 2022 proposed budget.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mrs. Killian made a motion to approve the permission to advertise the calendar year 2022 proposed budget, and Mr. Irwin seconded that. Dr. Gover, please.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Next is our bid for cafeteria supplies. Mr. Lentes. While you're approaching, I'd like to open it, well, I guess you better sit back down. But first of all, I'd like to see if there's any public comment or questions.
You're right, Jackie.
Oh, yeah. As far as specifically, now this is just regarding the cafeteria supplies. Just checking. Seeing none on the cafeteria supplies, Mr. Lentes.
Thank you, President Lauer, Dr. Hayworth, and members of the board. The Food Service Department is asking that we can extend the original bid from 2021 to 22 school year into the 2021-22 school year. In doing so, it gave us an opportunity to fill our supply lines, have vendors be able to get the items that we needed to get ahead of school, and to be able to make sure that we were in a good spot to start the school year out. We did contact the state. They said we can extend it as long as they stay within the CPI index of just going on. We reviewed all of those numbers that came back, and these are the vendors that we had chosen, which were ones we had last year. So we're just asking for approval for the 2021-22 school year.
I'll make a motion to pass the school supply, cafeteria supply bid also.
Okay, Mrs. Wise made the motion to accept the bid for cafeteria supplies and food, and Mrs. Scott seconded that. Are there any questions?
I just had a quick question. As far as inventory and supply chain, as far as that goes, are everything kind of ship-shape and moving forward?
We are in pretty good shape. We work very closely with B&B Foods here locally, and then also Wabash Foods out of Vincennes. And they've done a great job getting items that we needed all summer long, and helped us get to the point we're at. We're 3 weeks ahead in ordering, and so far so good.
That's great, thank you.
Not superstitious there.
Everything can help.
We've had a motion and a second. Dr. Gover, please.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Moving on to the 2021-2022 textbook and consumable fees, and I see no one has signed up to speak to that issue. Mrs. Wilson?
President Lauer, Superintendent Hayworth, members of the Board of School Trustees. Tonight, the administration seeks approval of the proposed 2021 school year education fees as contained in your board packet this evening. You can see that they're extremely comparable to last year.
Thank you.
I move approval of the fees presented.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Mr. Irwin made a motion to approve the 2021-2022 textbook and consumable fees presented by Mrs. Wilson, and Mrs. Moore seconded that. Dr. Gover, please.
Ms. Lauer,
Aye.
Dr. Powers,
Aye.
Ms. Scott,
Aye.
Mrs. Wise,
Aye.
Mr. Irwin,
Aye.
Mrs. Killian,
Aye.
Mrs. Moore.
Aye.
Thank you. Now regarding the COVID-19 and masking policy, we do have several speakers, and I would just like to remind everybody that, we are on video and we have families and children watching our presentation, and I hope our standard of presentation is the same as it has been in the past, and very well respected of all members of the audience as well as the board. And the purpose is for the audience to address the board, not anyone else in the room. And if it becomes a little out of control or a little unruly, we will quickly close the meeting. As well as, don't forget, as in our personnel report, we never refer to specific people in our personnel, and you must not either when you're making comments to the board. So I appreciate your respect for each other. We have differing opinions all throughout the community and the nation, and so we just need to be sure that we remain a close community that is able to respect and hear everybody's opinion. And we do have that right. And I do appreciate your being here tonight to share with us. Okay, Matthew Harvey. Well, Dr. Hughes, you want to speak first? Yeah. I'm sorry, Matthew just came. Dr. Hayward. go ahead.
Matthew, if you'll just give us a second. My mic on? Sure. You guys hear me in the back?
Yep, that down.
They said barely, far back, they said.
Test. Is that better?
Always raise your hand if you cannot hear one of us. If we don't speak loudly
Test,
enough,
test.
Yes.
let us know.
Board in front of you, and for those in the audience behind the board, we have collected data from the last 4 days of school, so we can see the progression of COVID-19 in Vigo County and how our schools are feeling the impact of community spread. As you can see, our student cases over the past several days have stayed pretty steady at around 50 cases. These are active positive cases, and not all of these cases come into contact with our schools. In fact, if you think about it, many of the cases shown on 8/18 were cases contracted before the start of school. Student quarantines have grown slightly. Masking is proving to be a good mitigation strategy to keep quarantine numbers from becoming disruptive. The most likely scenario for quarantines at this point is what we're seeing is masking at lunch. We don't have those masks on. Currently, quarantines are impacting less than 2% of our student body. Staff cases and quarantines have remained consistent. These numbers are promising because last year when we had similar community spread, our staff numbers were much, much higher. So moving on to Vigo County numbers as a whole, hospitalizations, and talking to the hospital multiple times this week, hospitalizations continue to grow, with this being a major concern for them. Many hospitalized patients are in the ICU and on ventilators. I think maybe at Union there's 8 now that are on ventilators. Positivity rates remain high, but steady at 9%. And we are seeing a large number of cases per day in Vigo County, but that number is also steady. We're orange this past week, and I'm going to predict that Vigo County will be orange again this week. As I shared last week with the members of the board, I've convened a group of local doctors and medical experts that will serve as our new COVID-19 advisory team. After our first meeting, it is clear that this group has a diverse mix of perspectives and experiences with COVID-19. The week before each board meeting, this group will meet to review our local data and share what they are seeing in our community. I will ask for their consensus at the end of each meeting on whether to add mitigation resources or loosen those mitigation measures. or stay in the current plan. This consensus will inform my recommendation at the next board meeting. We will announce to the community on the Friday before the board meeting what that will be. Central question to this group, and will continue to be with this group, is to seek the answer each time as to how do we keep our kids in school. Last week, we also discussed what data we might need to identify when mitigation measures might be loosened. We will continue those discussions in our meetings as we collect data from the first few weeks of school. We have a range of perspectives on this board, as was witnessed at our last board meeting. We have a range of perspectives in our community, as we have witnessed. Somewhat more masking in our schools, somewhat optional masking. My goal is what can be done to build consensus around a board regarding how we can perform our school corporation's most basic function, keeping schools open so children can learn and families can go to work. It's my hope that by convening this new task force to help inform this recommendation, we can capture those emerging thoughts in our community. As of tonight, I'm recommending that we stay with our current practice, which would require no action by the board. And I now suggest you open it up for public comment.
Matthew Harvey. Mr. Harvey, we, as of our last board meeting, we had several more speakers on this topic, and we limited the speaking time to 3 minutes rather than our usual 5.
I'd like to have 5.
I was going to say, well, we are going to change it to 5, so your wishes. Good. Go ahead.
How you all doing this evening? I've went to school in Bayou County. My kids go here. My wife was taught here. I believe a lot of things is optics. You know, wearing a mask, you know, cause division. Our kids aren't political pawns. You know, they're our future. Y'all are supposed to be the shepherds that's leading it. You know, I put my faith into God. Don't live in fear. You put it upon Him, and He'll take care of you. Now, and with Vigo County schools, there's been a huge disappointment on a lot of things. From the referendum, y'all misappropriating funds, to the list can go on. Aqua Center. Are y'all having our kids swim in masks? I would hope not. That'd be like cruel and unusual punishment. Waterboarding. I just feel that y'all can do better. As in a community, and we work together, and we can have trust back in you. I mean, our teachers are the ones in the trenches, and they're actually doing the job and working. Parents, we're here to work with you. We want our children to succeed. They're the future. I remember being in a meeting, Mr. Hayworth, you were talking about numbers. And Vigo County is on a decline. It should be parents' choice, sir. We know our children, we know our bodies better. If you want to wear the mask, sir, you do you. You know, there's kids that, you know, might have religious beliefs, parents, they get violated. Kids that can't wear it for whatever reason it may be, but you need to take that into consideration. I'm sure there's plenty of kids with IEPs that can't. And you're just forcing them. It's almost like you're just putting a muzzle on them and making them conform. Teaching them to be afraid. And not, oh, we can't get close. you just create division. And is that really what you want to teach to the kids and have them just be afraid? You should be teaching them, we all should be teaching them to be confident, to be leaders, and to stand up and know what's right, and aspire to do better instead of running and just hiding. And we deal with the flu every year. Are we going to be masking every year, sir? You know, of everything. We all take a risk. When you walk out that door, you get in your car. You got to put it in God's hands. He'll take care of us. You know, our kids, they're His children too. They're full innocence, and I believe that y'all take that innocence away from them. And they can't learn if they can't see enunciating words, especially the little ones. You know, with being hot, and it's just a battle. I understand why you all want to do what you want to do, but with the research, do the masks really work, or is it just for optics? You know, that's something that you need to ask. What is the long-term effect and the psychological effect on the children? And are you all willing to assume responsibility for that? You know, our kids shouldn't be living in fear, sir. They should be out enjoying their classmates. When I went to school and I took my son there, and for the
30
first
seconds
day,
remaining, sir.
it looked like a little concentration camp. It was sad. It hurt my soul. You know, all the kids just lined up and conformed, and, you know, it was like they were little robots. It's sad. And I don't know how you all can not necessarily see that and feel good about yourself, in your soul. That's all I have to say. May God help you.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. Steve Ellis,
I'll decline. Thank you.
thank you. Joshua Holt.
Thank you guys for the time. I'm going to be a little bit more direct. In fact, it really disappoints me that the fact that I watch him speak, and I watch 4 of you watch him the entire time. That's disrespectful. All right? First off, I have something I'd like to hand out to all of you. And if you don't take it, that's fine. You can look it up on the CDC website, but I'm going to start here, and you're more than welcome to pass this down. This is a CDC prevention guidelines for K through 12, which you, sir, decided to post a YouTube video that you don't follow. For example, the CDC recommendations are as follows. Any child that is within 3 feet of another that is exposed does not need to be tested. You, sir, in a YouTube video that you sent out to every parent, said that if they're wearing a mask, it doesn't matter how far apart they are, they can come to school. So don't dare tell us that you're following CDC or state guidelines when I could call the health department today and they tell me that the Vigo County School Corporation is involved in quarantine guidelines. Does anybody want to deny that? Right now, I'm giving you the opportunity. Does anybody want to deny that the fact that the Vigo County School Corporation is involved with the Vigo County Health Department in setting quarantine guidelines? Anybody?
Mr. Holt, it's not a conversation, it's just your words
that
you're presenting to us.
Understood, ma'am, but by your bylaws, I do have the right to ask questions, and I also have the right to get answers to those questions. Am I right or am I wrong? Or would you like me to pull your guidelines up and your bylaws up? Okay, fair enough. So, you know, as masks continue to be a hot button across here and the United States of America, 42% of local districts have flexibility to mandate masks. We are in that 42.8%. 24.1% of the United States, those local school districts do not have the authority to mandate masks. It's a fact. Look it up. Do your research, right? Again, like I said, your local health department, you guys, you're working with them. So who are you to tell me anything about quarantine guidelines when you're the ones that set them? Again, your masks, according to the CDC, if my child who is in 4th grade at Davis Park Elementary is within 3 feet of another child, he should be quarantined. Guess what? Day one, I go into Davis Park Elementary School. My child is not 3 feet away from another child. This school right here that you guys decided to choose as your school corporation building, you closed this school. A Vigo County Elementary School, you closed it. Along with another school, you forced all elementary schools to have a higher classroom rate. Therefore, those children cannot even be socially distanced. But you want to maintain mask wearing? Real smart, right? So, your school board team has assembled a team to assess this COVID situation, right? But if anybody were to actually do any research on your COVID team, it's a partisan team. They all have the same goal in mind: masks, vaccines. Partisan team, right? So guess what? As a parent of a student in Vigo County School Corporation, I am working with other parents to assemble my own team. And this team is going to be composed of people from all walks of life. We've already established that they're very educated, they're very smart, right? We have the ability to research everything that you guys say, that you guys do, the failures that you guys seem to, constantly do at every single board meeting, where you cut people off early, where you refuse to answer questions, all stuff that's against your bylaws. So, legal actions must be taken. You guys refuse to acknowledge religious exemptions. It's against Indiana law. If I had more time, I'd cite the law for you, but I'll let my attorney do that for me. Do you guys out here, biggest way to make a difference? Register to vote.
Addressing the board, Mr. Holt.
Oh, I am. And I'm also addressing everybody else. Register to vote. That is the way to get this done.
Thank you, Mr. Holt.
Oh, and by the way, I have a legal petition right here to address this issue. If any of you guys would like to meet me outside, you're more than welcome to after this is done.
Thank you, Mr. Holt. Lisa Stallings, thank you.
Thank you. I'm Lisa Stallings. I'm a Sister of Providence from St. Mary of the Woods. And I want to speak in support of the masking protocol that has been adopted and that I hope will be continued. We have a very frail population at St. Mary of the Woods. In the last year, we lost 5 sisters to COVID and another 6 who recovered from COVID but then died because of their diminished condition. We feel very strongly about masking and about taking all possible protocols to keep our sisters safe. We obviously don't have children in the Vigo County schools or grandchildren. We have staff who do, however. And the notion that they could transmit the virus to our sisters is very frightening to us. We are aware of breakthrough infections. We've had very good success with vaccination on our campus, and we're also aware that that's not the only way to protect ourselves. So I want to support the masking protocols that have been established and ask you to consider renewing those. Thank you.
Thank you. Ruth Fairbanks.
Hello. In the American Revolution, the British had many advantages over the ragtag ad hoc army of new Americans. They were better trained, they were better supplied, and they were also largely immune to smallpox. Americans were much less likely to have immunity to smallpox because they hadn't been exposed, and few places in the British colonies had active inoculation campaigns. This became a huge problem as armies of new Americans marched and camped in crowded conditions. George Washington thought that his army would be defeated not by the British, but by a virus. One of his most important and successful military campaigns was to inoculate his entire army and successfully keep that a secret from the British until it was nearly done. This was the father of our country, using public health principles and the advice of medical professionals and imposing a mandatory inoculation on his troops so that he could get through the year. In this country, we celebrate individual rights, but we have just as long a history of balancing individual preferences with community responsibility. The rights in our Constitution are not absolute, and the Supreme Court has repeatedly upheld limitations on them. You cannot yell fire in a crowded theater. The Supreme Court has said you do not have the right to do that. The public school system, the first great public education system in the whole world, is itself a mark of assuming community responsibility. The New York Times health journalist explained today that this virus mutation is spreading faster among children, and that of every 100 children who do develop COVID, 1 will end up in the hospital. I want you to think about that too, and the long-term effects of that. Those children, sick children, do not do well in school, and even a mild case could seriously put a child behind weeks of schooling. Any children who develop long COVID with conditions like brain fog and exhaustion could be seriously handicapped for we don't yet know how long. Today, the FDA approved the Pfizer vaccine for non-emergency use for people aged 16 and up. Yay! Putting this vaccine on a par with polio, MMR, diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, varicella, and Hep B vaccines, which are long-time requirements in the Indiana schools. There is a way through this. There is a way through this pandemic. We don't have to be prisoners or victims of an unthinking virus, and the father of our country has shown us the way. We can employ the best principles of public health, vaccines, masks, avoiding crowds, quarantine, and isolation to stop the spread. Please continue to follow the best health advice that you can get to keep our children, our families, and our community as safe as possible.
Thank you. Nathan Hawkins.
Hi, my name is Nathan Hawkins. I'm a junior at Terre Haute South High School. And I would just like to say, I think it is very disappointing how politicized the idea of masking has become. Despite what many people here are claiming, wearing a mask at school is not a big deal. I've been doing it for more than a year and I hardly notice it anymore. With only a week into the school year, classmates of mine are already being quarantined as COVID seeps back into our schools. I know nobody wants a repeat of last year, and the best way we can do that is ensure that students and staff wear the masks as much as possible. Science has shown that masking does work to prevent the spread of COVID-19. It's not an infringement on anyone's freedom, but it is one of our best tools to finally end this pandemic. So please continue to encourage students to mask up and get vaccinated too. Thank you.
Margaret Burdick.
Thank you for this opportunity. This afternoon when I was at work, I got a text around 3:35 from my child saying that every child on his school bus, which is a very full school bus, had gotten a letter saying that they had been exposed to another child infected with COVID-19. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, here we go again. I know that the school bus, or I believe that it falls under federal law, it's not part of our local policy, but I could not help thinking about what would have happened if this were the case in an unmasked classroom. I want to say that I'm so grateful for this masking policy that's keeping students in school. We simply can't have another year like last year. We lost so much in terms of learning, in terms of social interaction, and in missed milestones for our kids. I would like to add that just because some people speak or yell the loudest, it doesn't mean they're right. And I also want to add that comparing masking to waterboarding or our schools to concentration camps is completely inappropriate. I'll say just because some people pack a school board meeting doesn't mean that most parents or community members agree with them. The fact is, there are many people who are too afraid to be here tonight in a crowded room with many people who are unvaccinated and unmasked. But someone used the word optics earlier. Well, I will say that the optics for those parents are different. Here we are in a school board meeting that's going to be on TV, and the people who yell the loudest will get the most press. But there are many parents who strongly support masking, and their alternative is to send an email or something like that. They don't necessarily get heard in the same way, but their opinions matter too. Finally, I want to add that just because the vote doesn't go the way some people want, it doesn't mean they haven't been heard, which is what I keep hearing. Oh, we're not being listened to. I was here 2 weeks ago, and everyone who wanted to speak was heard. They had an opportunity to speak. The fact is, the school board just chose to put science and the educational welfare of our children first. And I'm one parent that deeply appreciates that. Thank you very much for your thoughtful policy.
Kelly Dumas.
Good evening. I'm here in support of the school board and the mask mandate. When I got in my car to come here, I fastened my seatbelt, put my cell phone in my purse, and attempted to drive the speed limit. These are rules and regulations imposed on me for the safety of others and myself. I also follow the recommendations of my physician because he knows more than I do, and I've been able to reach 74 years old because of his help. That being said, I have 2 adult children and their spouses who are teachers in this school corporation. They do not like wearing masks, but do so to protect their students and others because it is a rule. They also wish to teach face-to-face with their pupils 5 days a week. They do not want to return to last year's chaos of AB days and virtual learning. Each of them have mentioned to me the significant loss of learning which has been noticed already this school year. In my opinion, a mask is a small price to pay for the safety of our children, teachers, and staff. It is also important that our students receive the best education possible, and the past year has shown not to be a good model for achievement. Sometimes what is right is not popular, and what is popular is not right. When I head home, I will again follow the seatbelt rules, the cell phone rule, and the speed limit because they protect me as well as others. I urge you to continue the mask mandate for the health and well-being of our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Christina Edwards.
Okay, so once again, I'm up here again. I was here 2 weeks ago. And so I just want to say that we talked about last time, you know, have you guys asked parents or kids how their emotional and mental status had been over this past year? I will tell you this, we decided to send our child back to school, and he's not, this is the first time he has been happy about being there. Now, knock on wood, he's in the age group to where he can unmask when he goes to the classroom. My concern today, it was well over 90 degrees. Our school buses do not have air, so I asked him how hot he felt. Did he feel very hot? And he said yes. And I said, Jaden, I've always told you, you pull the mask down if you cannot breathe on a hot bus or, you know, anywhere. He says, no, we'll get in trouble. I don't feel that, you know, parents that have their opinions on the mask, let them mask, but don't push it on the ones that don't. And I heard someone else say, our vaccinations, you know,
Please do not interrupt a speaker, let her finish.
The vaccinations, I heard someone say that, you know, we should still mask because of vaccinations. I don't know if anybody else pays attention, but there's breakthroughs, COVID cases, people that get the vaccine. Not every child, I'm not speaking for everyone here, but I'm sure there's a lot of children that are not going to get vaccinated. For one, you know, I'm not going to go into all of that, but I'm just here to say that, and I got the weekly report of my son's grades this past week, all A's. So I'm very proud. Last year on e-learning was D's and F's because he just couldn't, you know. Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and I'm sure, you know, the school board got money from COVID funding. What about putting into our schools, put some of that money into, and I don't know, I'm not licensed in this, but something that will help kill bacteria and things like that, instead of masking our kids to where they don't feel like they can speak, you know, respectively to anyone about how they feel. And that's how I think a lot of kids are feeling nowadays. And it's very sad. And I will tell you real quick, it doesn't have anything to do with kids, but I had a family member back in February, had a lot of health issues, came down with COVID, but it could have all changed because of one doctor that doesn't deal with the COVID patients. Told the family, please put him in hospice care. Well, guess what? The family decided not to, wanted to see if he'd get better. 78 years old, he recovered from COVID. He recovered from COVID, did not do the other option like these doctors. So I'm wondering, all these cases, we don't know. Do we check into that behind closed doors? What contributed to those issues? And knock on wood, I'm going to go back to in the school. I'm glad that I wish all grades would unmask or just let it be the option for the parent, because I just feel like this emotionally is not good for our kids at all. So, and I don't know where you guys get your research from, what you know, but kids should not be masked, my opinion. Definitely not on a school bus, as hot as they get. So, you know, if something ever happens, what's your guys' plan if a kid passes out from heat exhaustion? If I get a phone call from the bus driver, my kid passed out from wearing a mask, what are you going to tell me? So, you know, I have a lot more to say, but, you know, it just feels like I told my husband on the way here, I don't even know why I go. Because it seems like, you know, you guys do some things, but it's not the parent's choice. And I feel that, you know, the past year and a half, people get judged, and I just think that everything has been politicized, and it shouldn't be. So, as long as, you know, the plan stays where it's at, My son will be in school.
And that's.
If that
thank you.
changes, we will withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Pretty sad they still can't
And
even look at
before
it when
you
it's speaking.
sit down, Christina, that ended all the comments on COVID and the masking policy. So it's a second call for citizens' comments, and I think you had a comment also on Christina Edwards. Did you have another comment on food service and meals?
Can I just say it back here instead of walking all the way back up there? So, 5 out of the 6 days that Jaden's been in school, I called the cafeteria, they're working on it, but he has had a cold meal every single day, breakfast and lunch. So hopefully they can look into their temperature checks or whatever, but, so, I'm sure you guys wouldn't want to eat cold food either.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Still can't even look at the people addressing you. Very disrespectful to the entire
Dr.
board.
Hayworth, do you have some comments?
Unbelievable.
Information? No. Any information from other board members? Well, I'd like to just say that a few of us are going to attend the Indiana School Board Association meeting in the next couple of weeks. And we had an incredible bass fishing competition, the first annual bass fishing competition that we had, and North High School walked away with those honors. And I took a tour of this building with some of the other board members, and I will say that the department chairs seem to be thrilled with their space in this building, and some of them have their files and papers with them in the same room for the first time and not on 3 different levels. So that ending any comments, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. Mrs. Wise made the motion to adjourn, and
Marcy,
Mrs.
will you
Williams
speak?
seconded that. This meeting is adjourned.
No, it's not.